The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's a Friday here in the fifth worst city in America.
You couldn't wait, could you, Chip? You couldn't wait. So should I go to broadcast that story from 24/7 Wall Street and USA Today? Not like they're, reputable sources or anything.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, yeah, that would be. I think that's a great lead-in for our commentary on some of the responses.
Okay, we're going to go to it now.
This is Douglas McIntyre from 24/7 Wall Street, and these are the worst cities in America to live in. To make it on this list, we reviewed 550 cities, and they all had populations north of 65,000 people. This was based on a range of variables that included crime rates, employment growth, access to restaurants and attractions, educational attainment, and housing affordability. And these came from sources like the FBI and the U.S. Census. Among all these American cities, there are two types of cities on the list. The first one are cities that very few people have wanted to live in for a long time. These would be places like Detroit and Flint, which are losing net population almost every year. The second group are cities where the cost of living has skyrocketed. Several of those are cities in California, and income just hasn't kept up. So people can buy less and less, rent less and less, buy smaller and smaller homes in these cities, and that makes them very tough places to live.
Well, there you go. And
there was this has started a firestorm on the internet. It started a firestorm in the city, so much so that Pravda had to come out with an editorial about it. But the problem is that everyone missed one thing. Number one, this is from USA Today and 24/7 Wall Street, which is a provider of information to USA Today. They got this facts from federal agencies. Statistics that we've presented for how many years, Chip?
Yeah, well.
But this is all wrong. I understand better than anyone else your loyalty, your faith, that your belief in the city of Fall River. It's a wonderful city. You know what? I grew up here, and when I was growing up, this was a totally different city than it is today. And I was very proud of this city. This is not making Fall River look any better or worse than people already knew it was. For years, Hollywood has picked on Fall River. Okay? For years. I went nuts last night looking for the video clips so I can have them for the show today. And I will find them, even if I'm going to go out and dig them up myself somewhere. But I'll tell you, this is not new. The problem is that the people of Fall River currently are playing ostrich. If I bury my head in the sand, everything will be wonderful. You act like the city councilors.
Well, let me preface this by saying that, if you look at Fall River objectively, as these people did from the outside, you're not saying that everybody in Fall River is horrible. There are a lot of great people in Fall River. There are a lot of, and I'm still in Fall River. But to say that this place isn't a disaster, you're totally, you must be on some wacky weed or something, because all we have to do, forget about this. We went from the second lowest household income to the lowest. We led the state, we're always at the top, and I think we were at the top the last one in unemployment rates. But let's look at see, the problem we have here is we tend to try to dream special dreams about everything, and we tell half truths and we try to convince ourselves. But the reality is, listen, if a drug addict won't say he's a drug addict, you can't cure him. If he says, I'm a drug addict, but I want to take drugs. You're not going to cure them. You have to face reality. And let's look at the Fall River editorial. It says, this is a quote. It said, the worst cities list was based on, quote, a range of variables, including crime rates. Well, we're in the top 50 in the country in the crime rate, right? Okay, employment growth. We're the lowest in the state. We have the highest unemployment. Access to restaurants and attractions. Yeah, you tell me how many non-Portuguese restaurants we have in this city. Taunton is 1/3 the size of Fall River, and there are more non-Portuguese restaurants between Route 24 and the center of Taunton on either Route 44 or 140 than we have in an entire city, which is 3 times the size of Taunton. Okay, so that's all bullshit. So they're crazy with those stats. Okay, educational attainment. Well, we don't even have to go there because we know what's happening with our school system.
13.1% of this city or less has a bachelor's degree. Come on.
And household affordability, probably the household affordability is the only category that kept us from being up in the top 3.
Actually, no, because when you look at it, if you listen to how he prefaced this report, the cost of living has not kept up with the income levels.
Well, no,
and we've already said in Fall River.
All right, all right. So that is a little, that to me, that's not as valid. Look, to me, what's an issue with that last one is that houses in Fall River are a lot cheaper than they are anywhere else as you go toward Boston. The problem is, you're right. If it talks about affordability to the demographic that lives here, you're right. It's way out of whack.
Exactly.
But the fact is, see, Fall River continues to think that we're going to get tourism and bring people into Fall River, but affluent people are not going to come to a place that's got a high crime rate, all this drug addiction, no restaurants outside of Portuguese restaurants. And let's look at the Herald News' response. Let's look at this, okay? Perhaps demonstrating how ludicrous speed this list is and its methodology. I don't understand what's wrong with the methodology. Those things are that's what most people judge a city on. They look at the educational system, they look at they look at the restaurants, they look at the employment, they look at the crime rate. But I don't know. Our editorial staff at the Herald News is going to keep the myth going.
That's why I call them Pravda.
Exactly. and it says Miami. Oh, this is great. Miami, a paradise city to most Americans, is rated as the worst place to live. Well, guess what? Editorial staff of the Herald News. This wasn't a list of the worst places to vacation. Yeah. South Beach, Miami, great place. Go in the inner city. Look at the educational attainment of the people who actually live there. Detroit. Well, Detroit. I was in Detroit. There's a place called Greektown, which is about 5 blocks from the center of the convention center. Great place. Full of restaurants, terrific. The only problem is you're 4 blocks away in most major hotels and you have to take a cab because of the crime rate. You can't walk to the place.
They get mugged.
And they have to hire half the off-duty Detroit police to patrol it. That's the only reason you can go there. You know, this is absurd. It's just like L.A. Let's take L.A. Talk about, see, these people are looking at facts. As CJ said, they're looking at facts. They're looking at Fall River's employment rate, not the one that we created, the one that the state creates, the one that the Census Bureau creates. They're looking at facts, not delusions, and they're not trying to distort it or manipulate it or tell a half-truth. Oh, Miami's a paradise. We'll go live in one of the ghettos in Miami. Tell me if it's a paradise. LA's a classic example. You go to Los Angeles, fly in, get out of the airport, take a hotel, go walk at Hollywood and Vine, go in Grauman's Chinese restaurant, go look at all the actors plaques on the. No, it's a great place. Spend a week in East LA or Watts and tell me how LA is. This is the problem with the city of Fall River. Nobody can face reality. Nobody can face reality. Our city council, our mayor, our newspaper, nobody. They always got to make excuses. Listen, like I said, there are a lot of great people in Fall River, but the reason we don't move forward is this attitude. We can't, you can hit them in the face with something and they'll deny it. Their first thing is Fall River isn't that bad. Yeah, well, if you look at this, in these categories, we are in the top 5. And if I had to bet, I'd bet that if we compared these people are right. They're right on, because this is a major reporting. Wall Street. I mean, they know how to do numbers. They didn't pull these numbers out of the air, because guess what? If they listened to Fall River City Council and our mayor and all the other people that are always saying, oh, what a great place this is, we'd be the #1 city in the country to live in. And we know this city's got issues. I'm not saying, you're not condemning the people. You're not condemning, the hardworking people of this city.
What few there are.
That's right. But exactly. But let's face fact. That video said they were north of 65,000 people, and people were leaving these cities. I can almost guarantee you, if we weren't importing welfare from all over the country, trucking them in from Pennsylvania, bringing them in from Boston, New Jersey, you name it, have billboards to bring them in. If we didn't have those influx of low-income, non-working people, we wouldn't have made the list, because we would have been under 65,000 people. Well, we wouldn't be at 88,000. We'd probably be below that, because, the Fall River of what they made fun of in the movies and on Johnny Carson, we had nearly 100,000 people. And where have they gone? Where have most of the working people gone? Look across the bridge to Somerset, look over to Westport and Dartmouth and Swansea. That's where they are.
A good chunk of the guys that I went to school with, whether it had been at the old Matthew Cuss, which is now a resiliency school, Durfee, Diamond, wherever it may have been, Pine Street School, I don't know how many people remember that. They don't live around here anymore. They live in Colorado, California, Texas, Florida, Georgia.
Not Miami.
Well, the thing that gets me is that the people of Fall River, on, all the Facebook warriors, hey, Mom, get me a Hot Pocket, decided to go after the publisher of 24/7 Wall Street and start, attacking his account and everything else. Hell, we've been called turds. There's one guy on Facebook that calls both of us turds. You listen to these two turds? Well, yeah, because these two turds are exposing the turds that are in Fall River. Well, but what really gets me is that when you present a fact like this, you can't fix it. And I have to correct a statement I made in a previous show, because I said it was like 35% of the city's tax dollars come from residential taxpayers. It's 67%. 2/3 of the city revenue comes from the residential taxpayer, because we don't have a commercial base, because we're too stupid. We keep giving the money away.
Which again contributes to the problem of the economic, the people in this city, and this is it. But who didn't know that? Most of the city council. Again, right. They voted tax increases, fee increases up the kazoo. And who is it imposed on? You wonder. Like, as I said, you look at Newton. They have 10,000 more businesses in Newton, and they have 2,000 less people than we do, and they have 10,000 more businesses. So
why
obviously,
do they have more businesses? Why do they have more businesses?
Because they have money. They have jobs and money.
There you go. They have money.
They have jobs and money.
They have disposable income. Something Fall River people don't
exactly. Have. But the other thing is, this has a synergistic effect. So in case anybody
You're using big words again.
Synergistic is, but it's the proper word. It means that when you combine two things, they have an effect greater than the sum of 1 and 1, which is 2. So when you have people with money, it attracts businesses, and the more businesses that are paying commercial taxes, the lower the burden is on the residential. That's a synergistic effect.
Wow, you mean you thought that out all by yourself?
Yeah, well, you don't have to be, you don't have to be Milton Friedman, but
no, you need to be Karnak.
But apparently, see, this is the problem, and I'm really glad this happened, because look, if you had ratings, you got to look at what they rated us on. When we get rated in the top 50 in crime, it's because we are in the top 50 in crime. Those people don't make crap up because they don't like Fall River. This is the implication. Oh, these people got something against Fall River. No, they don't. They don't even, they probably couldn't, they need their GPS to find Fall River if they came to Massachusetts.
They couldn't find it on a map if anyone knows what
but I mean, anymore. But listen, if you want to be in the top 5 or something, you guys do a study. Herald News, do a study. Their methodology was fine. You're full of crap. Let's have a study of who has the best Portuguese restaurants in America.
Right.
We'll be right there.
Exactly.
We'll be at the top. Nobody will complain about that. But who cares? Okay? Unless you're looking for Portuguese food. I mean, when you're trying to attract tourists and tax-paying residents, the criteria they use to make this makes this city one of the worst cities in the country. And until everybody gets their head out of their rectum and starts realizing it, the fact is, everybody that goes to AA, the first thing they say is, I'm an alcoholic. Well, if you don't say that, you'll never fix yourself. Until Fall River says, listen, we do have the lowest income. Stop with the excuse making, the manipulations, and I mean, this is the most disgraceful editorial I've ever seen in my life. I mean, talk about distorting. When you actually put in print Miami, a paradise city to most Americans. Well, are most Americans employed there? Are most Americans exposed to the crime rates in the residential areas? Do most people that go to Miami have their children in their educational system? Or have they bought a house in Miami? No. I mean, that is, here we go, twisting stuff because you can't take the truth. We should have run that tape with Jack Nicholson. You can't handle the truth. That's the problem. You can't handle the truth.
It gets to be nauseating. It really does. And the bigger problem I think that we have is that this editorial came out at the same time a letter came out from a Fall River resident named Drew Furtado, who now lives in New Bedford. He went from Fall River to New Bedford because it was better. And what did the people say when they read the letter? You just jumped ship. You quit on Fall River. You know what? A lot of people have quit on Fall River. They leave regularly. My children quit on this city. They have left. People who have an education left. Your children, they go to school. They go to school away from Fall River. They go to school away from Dartmouth. They go to school away from Boston. They go to New York. They go to LA. They go to Hawaii. I know one student who's in Hawaii right now. Do you think they want to come back here? And always remember, Miami may be a paradise when you're visiting there, because guess what? You're visiting. It's a visiting. It's not.
It's a brief letter, CJ. Why don't you read it to our viewers?
Well, I don't want to violate the Pravda's copyright.
Oh, okay. Well, you can. Just
but
read it.
But he said very clearly that he moved out of Fall River a month ago. For 30 years, this was my home.
Well, I'll quote it, and so I won't read the entire thing, so I'm not going to, a catalyst of my Fall River abandonment. Frail, empty leadership peppered with copious, poor decision-making. Well, you know something, Drew? You hit it right on the head. And, of course, the turbulent political game of Fall River has become nauseating and paralyzing, and tiresome. The leadership abandoned the citizens of Fall River for personal gain. Fall River is not heading in the right direction, and I can't be part of this gloomy journey. Very, very well said.
Yes.
And it says, look, he doesn't condemn the people of Fall River.
No.
He was one of them. But he's saying that our government with their constant bullshit, that this city is moving forward, even though every indicator it says it isn't, and that we're wonderful, and every time something comes out that should be a symptom that you deal with and treat, it's taken as an affront. Oh, you insulted Fall River. Well, you know something? All you people that want to call us all the names, come down here and call us the names. But secondly, never mind Facebook, be man enough to show up and say it. But secondly, why don't you run up to Boston and charge the State House and yell at everybody in Boston, how dare you say we have the lowest income in Fall River? The fact that we do doesn't mean anything. You're attacking Fall River.
Right.
And this does that make any kind of sense?
What did ESPN say on the Chris Herron show, Fall River, where they punch you in the face first?
And ask questions later. Yeah, but I mean, see,
and again, this is what national media, this is what Hollywood thinks about us. Okay, in Donovan's Reef, yeah. John Wayne said, this is Gilhooly from the Fall River Gilhoolys. Yeah. I mean, come on. And Gilhooly was a bar brawler.
Yeah. So and a drunk and a bar brawler.
Right. But even Johnny Carson had said, he when he did Karnak, where he put the envelope up to his head, he said Fall River, and then he opened it up, and I forgot what the question was exactly.
It was some kind of contest, and the answer was, and Ed McMahon said, what does the winner get? He says he gets a 1 week all expense paid trip to Fall River, Massachusetts. And he said, well, what does the loser get? He said he gets 2 weeks.
Exactly.
So, but I mean, look, that was a long time ago. But look, Fall River has had a progression. Fall River at one time did have jobs. We did have a lot more businesses. We had a pretty thriving Main Street and Pleasant Street. But Fall River began, getting a rap, and that's the Gilhooly and the Fall River Mass. Because Fall River was always known as a really tough town. In the era after the Second World War, during the Second World War, Fall River had a bar on every corner, and all the sailors from Newport Naval Base would come down here, and there were brawls every day. And I know people who, my father told me about, the sailors down here, and it was a place, it was a blue collar town where people came to party, and it was a lot of, so it got a reputation as a brawling, drinking town. But it was a brawling, drinking town that at least had some employment, that had actually people who worked for a living. They may not have made the greatest money, but they made enough money to bring up a family, to go to stores and keep stores in business. And then we began to see, with the textile mills moving out, then we saw our government continually making promises that they didn't keep. And as Mr. Furtado said, frail, empty leadership.
Yes.
That's all we've had. That encapsulates everything. All we get is this. And then when the newspaper gets up and it's like, don't pick on Fall River. Look if I can't hit a backhand and I can't win a tennis match, and my coach says, well, you better learn how to hit a backhand. So then I hit him in the head with a hammer and go, how dare you attack me? How dare you attack me?
Oh, I know.
This is ridiculous. It's like you can't argue with these things. But let me say this: if you're going to get upset with the people, the politicians in Fall River who continue to vote for budgets with a 30% increase for the mayor's office.
Who doesn't come to Fall River.
With tax increases for everybody, with nothing that services the taxpayer.
That's right.
And then totally ignores all the symptoms of what's wrong with Fall River. How long have we ignored the reality and made these ridiculous things like we're gonna increase it by tourism.
And market rate housing.
Hey, this will be a great tourism thing.
But Fall River hasn't changed too much from the past. We were a brawling, partying town that worked. Now we're a thieving, conniving, drug-addicted bunch of idiots. And I mean, that's where so we're not really too far off from where we came from. The problem is that we have a mayor that goes to Providence, Rhode Island, Warwick, Rhode Island, for the first arrival of a plane from Portugal. Why? What income?
He was getting peanuts for us from the plane.
What income stream does that create for Fall River? What revenue did it create for Fall River? What jobs did it create for Fall River? It didn't create any. It didn't even create a tourist market. Okay? People that come over here from the Azores are coming here because they have family here. No other reason. They don't come here to visit Fall River because, it's a great tourist community. They have family here. Some people have moved. Actually, some people have actually left Fall River and moved to the Azores. Imagine that. Well, that's scary, isn't it? So, when you look at this, Mr. Mayor, you could have been in Fall River doing something that would have substantially changed something. But no, you spent how many hours in Warwick on the taxpayer dime? And it got us nothing. This is the problem. We have leaders that don't do anything. And that's because you, the voter, voted these people in. And you have some of the people who failed in the last city council meeting race who are walking the fence all the time. And I can't ostracize anyone. I try to give everyone the opportunity. I try to be fair. There's one thing about being fair and balanced, but there's another thing about walking the fence for so long that those pickets are going up your ass. It's time to stand firm. I respect a politician, a candidate for any office, who has a backbone, who says, you're wrong and that's it. But no, we have one particular candidate who's out there all the time. Well, this should have gone through, and because the people say, no, we want it. Well, and I've made it very clear. I don't care. Okay? I don't care.
Well, I'll tell you what I care. I'll tell you what I care about, CJ. All the people who are going bananas over this report.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous.
Rather than going bananas, as I said, look at it. Do we have a high crime rate? Yes. Do we have employment growth? No. We got even worse in unemployment.
Right.
Do we have a whole bunch of restaurants outside of Portuguese restaurants? No. We all know about our educational attainment. And in housing affordability, our houses are cheap, but most of the people here can't afford them because of the economy. So you have to put that one in context. But these people, with these criteria, were right on the money.
Yes, they were.
So don't attack them for telling the truth,
but
because they are telling the truth.
The messenger, they don't attack the message.
Rather than I'm going to defend the city because it bothers me.
Right.
No, don't defend the city. Say, something. This is a tool to know what's wrong with the city. It's telling us about some of the symptoms that have caused the decay that we see in this city. So rather than get pissed off at them because they're telling you the truth, don't be like a drug addict who refuses to believe he's a drug addict. Understand that we're not saying that the people of this city are bad, but we're saying that this city is not going in the right direction. This city is not doing the right thing. The fixes that they've used, which is the same thing they've been talking about for a decade, are not working. We're going backwards. So, this is an attack on Fall River. This is just a simple document that says, hey, based on these criteria, which are very important criteria for most people when you're looking at choosing a city, that this city is one of the worst cities. It's just like saying a Durfee football team, which has lost, 1 million times to New Bedford, that we've got a better football team than New Bedford. You have to face the fact that we're not as good at football.
Exactly.
So instead of being angry at USA, be angry at the people who are directing the future of this city and directing it backwards.
Hey, have a happy 4th of July. Have a safe weekend. And remember, please stay angry. This show will be rebroadcast on Monday.